Warning, this video contains team selection and captain choices which some viewers may find offensive.
Hey guys, and welcome back to FPL TV. Before looking to blank Game Week 32, let's see how my team performed in Game Week 31. In the early kickoff on Saturday, I had two players involved, with Trippier and Mings facing each other. Initially, I had planned on starting Luke Shaw here instead of Tyrone Mings, but ultimately Luke Shaw missed out anyway, so it didn't make any difference. Following a few very difficult game weeks for my team recently, I have to say that buying Tyrone Mings on the wildcard in Game Week 22 has been one of the real positives of the season really. What an excellent budget-friendly option he's been. Once again though, his differential return last week was somewhat overshadowed, because in that game, the highly owned and absolutely inevitable Ollie Watkins produced a monster 16-pointer. Just like that, after one fixture of the game week, I was already on a sizable red arrow, and it was always going to be an uphill battle from there. Watkins now returning in 11 of the last 12 game weeks. A quite sensational run that's been sensationally painful for those who don't own him. As for the rest of the Saturday, however, things did begin to improve. Despite conceding, Kepa managed to rack up plenty of saves and bonus against Brighton, and Captain Haaland, as per usual, bagged a brace in just 45 minutes against the Foxes. Machine. More importantly though, it was the usual suspects of Harry Kane and Ivan Toney who both blanked that made the day a little bit better. Particularly Harry Kane, who was at home to Bournemouth. A big sigh of relief from me there. I made just the one free transfer last week, with the injured Rashford making way for Andreas Pereira at Fulham. This one I felt a little bit hard done by, considering Fulham scored 3 and Andreas had 0 involvement. He also had one golden chance to score in that game which deflected over the bar, so very close to a shrewd transfer move there. With struggling Leeds at home in his next fixture though in blank Game Week 32, still hopeful he can produce something. So, much like last week, the responsibility of securing a green arrow for my side was all being put on my Arsenal and Liverpool players once again, mostly of which are differentials. Odegaard came through with a very well taken goal and his first double-digit return since Game Week 18, so that was a big positive. However, it could have been so much better had Bukayo Saka not missed that penalty. Over just the past 5 game weeks, I've now been dealt a very cruel 3 penalty misses, 2 from Mo Salah and 1 now from Saka, and that's no doubt statistically very unlucky. Fortunately though, on the Monday, with Liverpool up last facing Leeds, it was a big return for Mo Salah which turned my red arrow into green. His effective ownership at a lowly 20% meant his 14 points really did wonders for the ranking, and certainly helped soften the pain of that Ollie Watkins haul in the early kickoff. Worryingly, Darwin Núñez did miss out again in that game, getting benched for the second straight game week, and with Liverpool purring in that fixture with both Jota and Gakpo playing well, my hopes of him returning to the starting 11 isn't looking the best. However, a last-minute goal off the bench from him was more than welcomed last week, and that little bit of luck that I needed. So for Game Week 31, thanks mainly to big scores from Odegaard and Mo Salah, the squad managed to recover from the early Ollie Watkins show and bring home a respectable 71 points. I started the game week at 376k and ended it at 319k, so not a huge rise, but enough to stop the rot at least and move my team in the right direction. I've chipped away a little bit at that top 100k target, so overall it's a positive game week. The upcoming blank Game Week 32 will now be a very important one, with many managers having their free hit chip in play. So let's move on to that game week now and see how my team is currently lining up, as well as talking about some potential transfer plans. So heading into Game Week 32, considering I don't have the free hit chip available, I'd say I'm in okay shape. I've got 8 players, most of which I'm happy with, and also 2 free transfers at my disposal, so I can get to 10 without a hit and 11 if I wanted for a -4. Granted, not all of my starters are what some may consider optimal for this game week. For example, at this moment in time, the likes of Jesus and Martinelli could be argued are better picks than the 3 Arsenal players I've currently got. However, Odegaard, Saka and Gabriel are all still very secure of a start at home to the Saints here, and in the end it'll be a bit of a lottery as to which players do come out of it on top with big scores. Regardless of who is believed to be the better, more optimal pick, on paper, all 3 of my Arsenal options this week are solid enough. And who knows, they may even serve as good differentials should free hitters look at other Arsenal players. The same can also be said for Darwin Núñez here this week. I mean, would I prefer a more nailed-on Liverpool alternative at home to Nottingham Forest? Absolutely I would. And after the performance of the front 3 in the last game week, it's hard to see Klopp changing things up. However, for me personally, I just don't think I'm in a position to make some kind of luxury switch to Jota here, for example, considering I've got players blanking elsewhere to deal with. Darwin perhaps not the best option right now, but in my position for this blank week, I think I've just got to hope for some luck here really. There's no doubting that if he is randomly given a start against Forest here, then he has potential to score big, so fingers crossed. Apart from Darwin Núñez, I'd say the other 7 in my team are all almost guaranteed to start this week, and that's going to be crucial for me in a blank game week with no bench cover. So onto my potential transfer plans now, and although I'm not yet finalised on what transfers will be made this week, it's looking certain that one of them will be for a third Liverpool player, with the Reds facing Forest at home this week in the blank, and out of form West Ham in Game Week 33, and then a double to come in Game Week 34. They also boast good fixtures all the way until the end of the season, to be honest, so getting a third Liverpool asset looks a certainty, it's just deciding on which way to go. Now, if I was picking for just one game week with no consideration about the longer term, then obviously I'd like to buy Alexander-Arnold this game week. He's produced 3 assists in his last 2 games, and we all know that when playing well he offers a lot of upside in FPL. However, in my situation, as much as I'd like to buy Trent this week, it would mean having to sell Luke Shaw. And with him now returning to fitness, and with United boasting double game weeks in 34 and 37 before the end of the season, I'm not sure I want to do that. Therefore, if I do want to keep Luke Shaw and continue buying a third Liverpool asset, then it's goalkeeper Alisson who's the only other alternative for me. Is he as exciting and explosive as buying Trent in FPL? Certainly not. But it would allow me to keep Luke Shaw, it'd give me an extra double game week player in Game Week 34, all whilst providing a 2 million saving on buying Trent, who is no doubt very expensive. As for my second free transfer this week, well, that's going to be directly dictated by which Liverpool player I opt for, because it comes down to budget. With Brighton's youngster Evan Ferguson picking up an injury in the previous game, that makes the decision to sell him this week a little bit easier for me. After all, even before the injury, I was concerned about his uncertainty of playing time anyway. Now, if I go the Alisson route, that leaves enough money in the bank to finally bring in the popular Ollie Watkins this week. The in-form Watkins faces his old club Brentford in Game Week 32, with his ownership surely set to be sky high again, particularly with many managers on the free hit chip this week. The Bees, his opponents, have conceded 7 goals in their last 3, so another good chance for Watkins to return here surely. In the following game week 33, he then faces Fulham at home, so the prospect of not owning Watkins for those 2 games certainly concerning. Alternatively, if I take the Alexander-Arnold route, then I'd have to find a much cheaper alternative up front, and that would be Bournemouth's talisman Dominic Solanke. I really like the Cherries and Solanke at the moment, who at a measly 5.5 million does look a very budget-friendly option for the next few game weeks. The improving Bournemouth face West Ham, Southampton and Leeds in the next 3 games, arguably on current form the top 3 teams to target. So as a means to still afford Trent Alexander-Arnold this week, and as a means to provide me with 2 big differentials, he's the other option that could come in this game week. So that's the 2 transfer routes I'm weighing up for Game Week 32, but nothing decided just yet. Opting for Trent and Solanke is certainly the more exciting route, and given my ranking, buying Watkins now does feel a bit counterproductive. Buying him now would be a more defensive move, and I'm not sure I should be doing that whilst ranked at 300k. For that reason, the Trent and Solanke move probably the one I'm leaning more towards, which does give me 2 big differentials with high upside for the next few weeks. But as mentioned already, that route does involve selling Luke Shaw, and that's the part I'm finding most difficult. For the captaincy in Game Week 32, for me personally, a fairly simple one I think. The armband has been on Mo Salah for the week and it'll almost certainly stay there. Granted, I'm not saying it's a simple one because I'm so sure of Mo Salah scoring big. After all, Liverpool have blown very hot and cold in recent weeks and have been very unpredictable. I say it's a simple one for me, more because in my squad there's no other alternative this week that I personally trust at this point in time. Of course, either of the 2 Arsenal mids could score very well and are certainly worthy of consideration. But Odegaard isn't particularly explosive, whilst at the moment with Jesus back in the team and also with Saliba out of it, Saka just hasn't quite looked himself. There's no doubting either does have the potential to score well, but with the pressure perhaps just mounting on them a little bit, I'm happy to go with Mo Salah despite their unpredictability. Liverpool are off the back of 6 goals in the previous fixture, at home to a Forest side who have now lost 5 games on the bounce, conceding at least 2 goals in each of them. So that's everything discussed regarding my team for Game Week 32. I'm set to use both of my free transfers and head into Game Week 32 with 10 players. Evan Ferguson and 1 other to be sold, it's now just a question of which transfer route I take as discussed earlier. Good luck to you all for the upcoming game week, FPL responsibly, and I'll catch you all in the next video.